I've been having problems with my wonky Skeg deployment on the Cetus HV. You can see that when I try to deploy the Skeg, the cord gets all balled up, indicating that the Skeg is not dropping. Let's turn it around or turn it over to see what's going on underneath. And it's just not releasing. So if I pull up on the Skeg a little bit like that, then there's no issue. The bungees actually pull on the Skeg, you can see, but you can see that this is going to get banged up. So if I push it down just a little more, let's see what happens. It doesn't want to deploy. These bungee cords are a little old, and I think what I'm going to do is replace the bungee cord first, see if that helps. So I'll pull out the assembly here. So how this works, this is just screwed in here, this is part here. That pulls out, that pulls out. So the question is that Skeg wheel, is that rubbing against these two pieces? So I'm going to loosen that just a little bit. Just a tenth of a turn, drop it back in the slot and see what happens then. That's better. So the question is, do I replace the bungee? I probably should do that anyway. And I think I'm going to use a wider diameter bungee. I'll clip these cable ties because we don't want this running off the track. And then we'll test that out. So bungee cord is being replaced with a heavier duty bungee cord. In order to do that, I've got to pull out the bungee cord. And there it is. That's how that works. So let's get started on that. I'm going to take out this bungee, put in a different one, cut these first. I'm going to cut this off. That's one tie. Two ties. Cut this off. This is a 5mm bungee cord. I'm going to use my small cable ties. Just going to go loosely at first. We'll start here. And we'll remember to tuck this slide part here underneath so it doesn't get in the way. but still leave a little bit of looseness here. All right, that's one. Maybe another one every other space here. Let's try that. This ensures that the bungee stays in the track. And that's going to come around. One side is going to go next to the cord, and the other side will go on the other side. And it's going to end up something like that. So I've got a lot of extra. Okay, now we can cut that, making sure we have plenty of extra to tie a knot in right about there. And I can see that this particular slide is not going to fit this diameter bungee cord. So now we'll tie this off, kind of right there to experiment, figure 8 knot. Just to see if that's enough. Drive it down. It needs more tightening here. So now we'll bring it here, drive it down. To the very bottom, as far as she'll go. Perfect. These, I think, we'll just leave them be. Well, we'll cut them off, drive them down in. We'll cut these off, push them back down in. We want to be able to reach them with something like pliers to pull that whole knot up. Let's just test the Skeg control back here. Got my hand on it. Goes very hard. Maybe it's too tight. Still a lot of room down in there. Let's go. Okay. So we need to tighten that just a little bit. Okay. But that goes really hard. It releases nicely. But I think it's got too much tension on that bungee, so we're going to adjust that. We can pull it up, take out some of the tension. All right, we've loosened that just a little bit. Let's tighten it back up again. And see what kind of difference we have. Not enough. You'll be playing with this back and forth to see what the right number is. Not quite right, but I think that's the best we can do. The skeg is sticking out just a little bit, you can see. And if we shorten the rope, the skeg rope, we should be all set. So that's the next step. So clearly the difference with the 5mm bungee, we're able to use the skeg. It's a little stiff. So the question is, do we shorten the skeg rope, or do we live with this tiny bit coming out? If a rock hits it, or you paddle over a rock, it's going to retract. And this component is below and safe. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, because otherwise getting the skeg rope shorter looks like a little bit of an ordeal there. So if you compare the previous bungee cord with the new one, you're looking at quite a bit of difference. So I think the 5mm cord is the difference. The old cord is measuring 3mm, and the new one is 5. So that seemed to make all the difference. We're going to leave it at that and say done. To summarize then, we've got a Baki skeg, and this is a rope skeg on the Cetus, and it's Baki because the elastic cord is worn. We've changed out the previous elastic bungee cord, which was about 3mm, and changed it to a 5mm cord. And you can see how much more elasticity that new cord has. Remember that these bungee cords have a certain amount of memory. So if at all possible, when you store your kayak, it's great to deploy the skeg, because this releases the tension on these bungee cords. So if you can store the kayak in this kind of position, this takes off the strain on the cord. And remember this little nubbin that we pulled out from down in here? Well, you can see that the size of the cord is such that it eliminates the need for the little bungee piece. That's not coming out of that slot there. And I've put a cable tie on the loose ends so I can grab those with a pair of pliers. You may need to do this as a field repair when you're out kayaking, and this would easily be done with my kit because I have a length of this cord. I've got these cable ties, and I've got scissors, knives, whatever. So this is easily repaired in the field. So you can see now I've got the kayak strapped in, and I've got the skeg deployed. Again, taking off all that tension on those elastic bungees. Just be aware when you go to launch to tuck that back in.